Hello, and welcome back to Bulletin Broadcast. It has been a while. I do
Mm.
apologise. We'll get the introductions out of the way. I'm Ben, and I'm joined by Greg
Howdy doody.
and Dan.
Hello.
Hello. So, yeah, I guess we can't really talk about anything other than what's going on at the minute.
Yeah, I mean, it's been some months since we last recorded. I feel like around Christmas was when we last recorded.
Probably, I want to say like early January at the latest, maybe.
Could have been January, could have been January. So it's been a little while, and a lot has happened in the world and in the gaming world in this long stretch of time. In fact, it's probably been some of the most eventful months that have ever taken place in our living memory. Um, I mean,
Pretty much.
the most exciting thing, the world is very excited for the new PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X information. Everyone is on the edge of their seats, we assume. Um, I mean that, but also obviously the terrible events of there's a global pandemic right now, as I would be shocked if anyone didn't know. And that's affecting lots of things. But we're not going to get into the economics or the politics or the sociology of that, I don't expect.
I hope not.
I mean, we can try. I have seen.
Mainly, I think it would just be an hour of Greg talking if that was the case.
Yeah, you're much more clued up as to the politics of the COVID-19 response than we are probably.
Yeah, I mean, that probably is true, but no one wants to hear about that on a gaming podcast where we discuss videoed games.
Okay, all right. So then let's talk about E3 then, the cancelling of E3. Let's start that because that was the news that kind of shocked me the most, if I'm being honest.
I've got questions around that. Maybe you can answer them for me.
Okay, all right. Well, look, we'll set the scene a little bit. Obviously, given everything that's happening, many events and any form of social gathering has been stopped. So it was no surprise when events started to be cancelled or postponed.
Mm.
And E3 just happened to be one of those events. Um, which which shocked me, if I'm honest, because we live in a digital age, and other than the show floor, E3 is just trailers and presentations.
Hmm.
It's something that Nintendo have been doing online for years. Literally, I mean, I think it was like 7 or 8 years they've been doing it now.
Yeah.
Nintendo Direct.
Yeah.
So, and even Xbox have said that they're going to jump on and do a digital presentation. PlayStation were never involved anyway, so that's not something to discuss.
I find that interesting. I find that a lot of the big, it's like Sony and Nintendo don't bother with it anymore. They just kind of do their own thing. I've found that quite interesting because it's only the last. Is this the second one that Sony have bowed out of in favour of doing their own thing?
Yeah.
But I mean, you've only got. If Xbox does that as well, it's almost like the whole thing's.
Yeah, I mean, you're kind of after that. You're just
halting.
left with the publishers, aren't you? You're left with like Ubi and Bethesda, and I don't.
Yeah.
I've never understood E3, to be honest.
Well, I think it's probably and has been for a couple of years now, sort of an anachronism. It's sort of out of its own time, because it sort of sprung out of the '90s when games press was like very young, and the gaming world was very young, and that was the developers and the publishers communicating directly to people who basically just wrote in magazines that were sold to children, like the teenagers and adult enthusiasts. Sure. So I think it's tried to sort of evolve over a long period of time, over sort of the fact that the way that games press and the way that the gaming world has changed since the mid '90s is quite significant, and sort of a lot of publishers, a lot of people like Nintendo and Sony are just like, we don't really need this anymore. This is sort of getting in the way of our scene. We want to make our own noise and stuff like that. So it was sort of slipping into total obscurity anyway.
I mean,
it's just old-fashioned, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would kind of argue that E3 is adapted, to be honest.
It's become a festival, hasn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
I think they realised it was dying a death, so they opened it to the public, didn't they? So you can buy tickets to go,
Yeah.
and it's just become, I think it's just become a bit more of a money maker than, because I mean E3 used to be, everyone used to get really excited because you'd get lots of surprises and oh my god, what's happening, you know. But now we know that games are coming years before they come in. You know, we get trailers and snippets and stuff because everything, like you say, it's a digital world. There's very few surprises that come from it because everybody knows what to expect when they go. It's more about the public getting to play trailers than it is about announcements, I think, now.
Yeah, I mean, it just
Demos even, not trailers.
it just doesn't make sense, right? Like, to run an E3 presentation isn't a cheap event. You've got to hire that hall to host it in. You've got to get all your staff out to LA. You've got to pay for their accommodation. You've got to, you know, the setting up of the arena, and like, why would you invest all of that money when you can just shoot a video in a space like a user studio space, create this online video, and then just post that? Like, it doesn't.
The logic used to be that they wanted to, when E3 was a more exclusive attendance and there was only really journalists and influencers and things like that, these companies would spend lots of money. So I mean, THQ, before they like combusted, used to spend like $1 million on their booth alone to really wow like games journalists. So games journalists would talk up their games and be like, well, THQ are doing great things or whatever, and sort of get into people's mentality as, we are a big developer, we do big games, so their press is, so that basically carries them on the airwaves essentially.
Yeah, I understand that, but it's like I said earlier about E3 not adapting. Like, the world around them evolved, and they were kind of like, we don't need to change. We're E3. We're E3. It doesn't matter that people are, you know, leaking the games that are going to be our conference, and that people aren't as enthusiastic about our conference as they used to be. Like, we're E3. It's fine.
It's gonna be alright. Don't worry.
I would be very surprised that. So, obviously, with what's going on in the world at the moment, I think that there are a lot of changes that are going to be permanent, and it wouldn't surprise me if, maybe not E3 because it's massive, but certain events that are cancelled, you know, are they ever going to come back again? Are they going to recover from this?
Depending on what happens, I can see Xbox not coming back to E3 if their online presentation is successful, and if they see the same traffic and engagement that they normally see from E3. I can see Xbox not coming back.
But this is what I mean. If a lot of publishers do the same thing and realise that they don't have to spend tens or hundreds of thousands, and you know everybody goes down that digital route, do you think E3 will come back? What's the point?
No, I reckon E3 won't be here in a decade, maybe less.
I wonder if it'll try to adapt again to the point where they just don't rent out a physical space, and they just have basically something like a whole day, which is like a show, where lots of studios will be like, hey, show off our this and our that and our this, and then the E3 people will be like, if you pay us, we'll put your game on prime time. You will get an hour's slot of, you know, here is the new Assassin's Creed game, Assassin's Creed 94, and like basically that could be something they'd try to do, but if that would only succeed if they could successfully convince all these publishers that enough people will be watching it that it would be worth their money. I don't know
mean,
if they could.
No, you've got to draw them away from their own YouTube channels, for Christ's sake. You know, most of these publishers have Twitch channels where people can watch video. Watch a video and chat. YouTube now has a premiere function where you can set a video as a premiere, and you can watch that video go live with your audience and chat in real time to them as they're seeing this video unfold.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
So it's like, you know, so for instance, Nintendo Direct, you could have Nintendo Direct as a premiere on YouTube and as a live stream on Twitch. And then regardless of where people watch, it's a live event, people are reacting in the fins, there's conversation. You don't need a platform to host it for you. There are so many avenues now where you can host it yourself, and I think people are going to start realizing that.
Maybe it's
This is what I mean. People are being forced. Their hands are being forced to do things like that. So, you know, it's similar to, obviously, personal experience with a lot of universities, schools and stuff, classes going online. It wouldn't surprise me if some of that sticks when this is all over, because it is a lot. It does make more sense in certain cases. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, think how many more students you could pull in if they didn't have to come and live. You know, if a student lives in Manchester and they want to attend a university in Swansea.
Exactly.
You know, I mean, Open University's been doing it for years. I know they're not like a prestigious university, but...
Well, I wouldn't say that, but yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of permanent changes, and I think the gaming world will see it as well.
Social changes that the whole world will be caught up in, and gaming cannot avoid. How exciting!
Okay, well let's. Oh, what should we talk about? Should we talk about gaming as an escape, or should we talk about the new console?
Oh, gaming as an escape's a good topic, actually. Let's talk about the new consoles,
yes.
though. Let's cover the new consoles, because maybe, I mean, it's sort of hard. I find it harder to take an interest and keep track of all of the news when it's not in like an E3 style news dump where I know I just watch like a YouTube live stream for about an hour and I go, okay, that's all the information done. But like now they're doing like a trickle of like little things and trailers, and a man stood in front of a PlayStation 5 apparently and talked in great depth about it and like made everyone fall asleep. I don't know. Maybe you guys know more about that. Apparently that happened.
I don't know more about that. I know that...
Me either.
That essentially both of the new consoles have been announced, and that on paper the Xbox is more powerful. But ultimately, does it matter?
Well, they say the PlayStation 5 has a lot of its sort of hardware. Its hardware is smarter and its software is smarter in a lot of ways, which might make up for an overtake even that sort of teraflop gap. And that there's a lot of cool improvements in the way that the PlayStation 5 will work. That, you know, it might even be a better experience. They've talked a lot about there being a really cool audio, and Ben, you were telling me a moment ago about how their new controller makes it feel like you're walking through a muddy field if you're walking through a muddy field. Like,
yeah, they have. There's basically like tension added to the L2 and R2 buttons. So the idea is that as you're holding L2 to aim a bow, if you hold R2 to pull that bow back, the R2 button will kind of become tenser, and you'll be able to feel the physical tension of the bow as you pull the string back. Which, I mean, the thing is, I've never understood this, like, pseudo console war that happens when new generations get announced.
Oh God, me neither.
You know, it's like a big dick swinging competition. Like, who's got the biggest dick? You know, I've got 6.2 teraflops. Yeah, well, I have 10. Like, I don't care if my friends buy a PS5. I'm buying a PS5. If they buy the Xbox, I'm buying the Xbox.
But then it looks you say about this, they have this kind of this pissing contest with each other, but then ultimately, if you look back, I mean, they're the same.
This is what I mean. It's
the PS4 and the Xbox One. If you play a game that came out on both side by side comparison in 4K on, you know, the Pro and the whatever the Xbox version is, they look the same. Same with the 360 and the PS3, and it will be the same with this current gen.
The differences aren't astronomical.
I mean,
the only big
as
difference,
someone who's still playing on his original Xbox One, and his Fallout 4 game just crashes all the fucking time, I would like to be playing it on something that actually runs it properly. There are real differences here.
I mean, have you checked the disc? You know,
the disc is. I do it off of Game Pass now, not because I got that offer from last year where you paid £1 for like 12 months of membership.
Oh,
Game Pass.
okay.
So that's not even an excuse.
I just the thing is, like Dan said, it's not. There may be small differences, but they're so minuscule. The only big difference I find is the UI. I find the UI of the PS4 a lot easier to get along with than the UI of the Xbox. As a personal
don't get me
thing.
started.
You know, Xbox, it's a weird setup. You have like the pin system, and it's kind of like a home screen where they just dump information at you.
Do you guys
And
ever
I
notice that the Xbox interface is actually a bit laggy? Like it's slightly too slow?
Yeah.
Yeah, that bugs me a lot.
Yeah, but like the PS4 interface is so like, you know, your store's always at the left, the game that you're playing is always next to it, and then everything's done in like a chronological order. The thing that you used in chronological order up to the thing you used last, like the least often, will be at the very end. You know, and then
it's just in a straight line. It's just easy.
the folder systems are so nice as well.
Yeah. Being able to organise it as you want. I can't get on with the Xbox One. I tried to watch Netflix on an Xbox a few months ago, and I couldn't find it. I ended up having to search for it on the store, and then go to download it again, which then tells you can open it, and then it took me to it. I could not find it. I just couldn't find it.
Yeah, but how much of that is the fact that, you know, you're a gramps?
Do one.
No, I mean, ultimately, with these new editions, like with these new generations, like I said, you know, I'm gonna. For me, it's not to do with the power of the console. It's what my friends play and what games it offers.
Yeah, that to me the ultimate test is exclusives. I was always Xbox. I think I had all the consoles up until the 360, and I never had a PS3. And then when the PS4 and Xbox One came out, I got both, and just kind of played with the one that had the most exclusive and the games that I wanted to play, and that was PlayStation. They've just got so many titles that appeal to me more, and that was kind of how it went.
Yeah, I mean, Xbox isn't doing enough in the exclusive front, and I think, honestly, you know, I mean, I think we can solidly say that Xbox lost this generation. I think Phil Spencer has acknowledged that. I feel like I've seen him saying that they didn't do as well as they could have. So they've really got to pull something out the bag for this next generation.
Well, supposedly they've bought up a whole bunch of studios or rights to their next games or stuff like that. Like a lot of them, and they could come out cannons blazing with a really fantastic lineup and lots of promising games coming out. But one of the best things they've got going on is this backwards compatibility thing, which doesn't sound like much, but to someone like me, and my example probably is quite reflective of at least a decent portion of people who have significant Xbox libraries and can see and can buy a console that will continue their library and make the most of the fact that each new console is going to upgrade what all those games are like anyway. It's very difficult to resist when you know that there's that option out there. I considered getting an Xbox One X for a long time until I realised the next console generation was only 2 or 3 years away. I'm just gonna wait, just because that's like I've got a massive Xbox 360 and Xbox One library, and it's just a no-brainer. And that's how they'll definitely retain perhaps a large portion of their audience. And a lot of people can be brought in by this Games Pass thing, which I think is actually really cool. And a lot of people really like it. It's hard to find anyone that says anything bad about the Games Pass.
No, I will give Xbox credit for the Game Pass. It is a good system.
Is that the? So I don't really know much about the Games Pass. So explain it to me.
So you know how with things like Netflix you pay a monthly subscription to be able to stream all this content. It's basically that you pay a monthly subscription, which is surprisingly low. I can't remember what it actually is now because I've still been paying £1 for 12 months. But it's something like £7 or £8 a month. I don't know what that is in United States money or whatever. But they essentially you get access to all of their first party exclusives. You get them on day one, so apparently there's going to be lots of them, so that'll be huge. And also lots of old games. You get access to them. You can download them, play them as much as you like. Okay.
Well, okay. So Sony have a version of that, but I don't know that their exclusives. I don't think they've got the same deal in terms of playing certain games on day one, but they do have. I think I can't remember what it's called. I think it's PS Now. Yeah. Which is similar with the subscription thing. But also, you said about backwards compatibility. They've confirmed that the PS5 is going to be backwards compatible.
Yeah, I was going to chime in after we finished. I was going to say that.
Is it not a limited amount of backwards compatible to like
it's
some
only
PS4
on launch
games?
It started off with the 100 top titles of the PS4, but then they later confirmed that they're expecting to have 1,000 backwards compatible games as of launch.
Is this going back to PS3 and PS2?
This is just PS4. This isn't
just PS4, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, if they could make it go back to PS3, PS2, PS1, they would fucking win. I would buy one of those immediately.
The issue is that they won't do that because of the PS Now system. The whole purpose is that's kind of the function that PS Now serves is that function.
Oh yeah, it does have a lot of older games, as in like prior gen games, doesn't it?
Yeah, the idea is that you know, if you want those backwards games, if you want the PS3 and the PS2 games, then you get PS Now.
I'm going to look into this PS Now. I looked into it when I first got my PS4 and I wasn't wowed at all.
I mean, it's been updated a lot since. At first, the launch was a bit
meh.
Yeah.
I feel like PlayStation's hand were forced though, because the fact that they've got VR, like I would have been so pissed if I bought a PS5 and my VR unit was then useless.
Oh god, yes.
You know, people have paid the price of a console again to get VR compatibility and then not being able to use it. That would have really, really been frustrating. But it's nice to know that they are going to have kind of the backwards compatibility and that you can still use the VR unit.
Yeah, so as far as I understand, they've said that the PS5 is built on like a similar architecture to the PS4. Obviously just a more powerful version, but the kind of base architecture is supposed to be similar.
That's when I get lost. That's when my grandpa NIS comes in.
It basically just means that they are very similar, so it should work.
Yeah, no, I've read I did read the specs and stuff, but I mean it doesn't mean a huge amount to me, and in terms of numbers they look pretty similar, the Xbox and the PlayStation. but I just read for kind of, okay, what does this mean in terms of practicality? I've got a huge... I don't know why, but I feel like my PS4 library is my largest. I feel like I've bought more games for my PS4 than I have for any console before.
I mean,
I had a huge Xbox 360 library. I mean, I have.
Don't forget, I mean, I know you have a habit of, regardless of what the game is, downloading a PlayStation Plus game, or adding it to your library at least.
I'm not even including that. I'm talking about physical...
Oh, wow. Okay.
Physical games. I think maybe because of the VR. Like, I have quite a chunk of VR games as well as standard games, but I'm pretty sure my PS4 library has overtaken my 360 library now.
Damn. Okay. Ooh, okay. Well, just before we start talking about what we've been playing and stuff, do either of you know what's happened with The Last of Us 2? Are you familiar with the situation surrounding this?
So I'm
Yes.
updated to a couple of days ago. I don't know if they've changed their position.
No. As far as I know, they haven't changed it for a couple of days.
So the position is that they are suspending the release. The game is functionally finished, but they're worried about taking a beating in the sales if they release it under these economic conditions. Essentially,
Bloody fools, absolute fools. Okay, so the situation is essentially this: the game was delayed indefinitely, and still is, as to recording, delayed indefinitely. And the main reason cited for this was, as Greg said, even though the game is functionally completed, they are worried about the logistics of its physical release. You know, people can't get out to buy it, and they're worried about the pressure it's going to put on the delivery systems getting it out to people. So they delayed it, and they refunded all of the physical pre-orders, the collector's edition, standard edition, everything.
Well, I haven't. So I thought that was the digital ones they refunded.
As far as I'm aware, the physical ones have been refunded as well.
Because I've had it pre-ordered for ages, and I've had no notification at all regarding it. And I mean, so since this has happened, I have pre-ordered a couple of pre-orders, and all my pre-orders have just been turning up on time, as well, apart from Final Fantasy, which was over a week early. But yeah, they've just been turning up as normal, which is why I was so surprised when I heard what was happening with The Last of Us, because my issue with that is, so I have an unlimited pass for the cinema, and obviously all the cinemas are closed at the moment, and they've been keeping us updated as to what's going on, and basically most films have delayed until the end of the year. But my problem with that is you can't... They're all going to come out at once. So it feels like they're going to take a hammer in because people can only go to the cinema so often.
Yeah.
So with all these big movies coming out at the same time, I think most of them are kind of October, November time. It's just mental. And I feel like with The Last of Us, when people are trapped inside and can only play video games, I mean, obviously there's other things going on, but at a time like this, it feels like the opportune time to get a new game out there.
Yeah.
In my eyes, now they're going to wait, which will obviously set the trend for many other games. I feel that this is going to kind of have an impact, and I think other games are going to do the same. Then you're faced with the problem of, right, okay, when do we release it? Because things like the Avengers and what was the other one that was delayed? There was another big one. Was it Cyberpunk? No.
Cyberpunk's been delayed. I don't know till when.
There's a handful of big AAA games coming out towards the end of the year now that were due to come out kind of around now, and I feel that they're going to suffer more by bringing it out at the same time, because games aren't like a trip to the cinema. They're 50 quid each. People aren't going to be able to afford to go out and buy 4 or 5 at the same time.
Yeah. I mean,
They're going to take more of a hit delaying it than they are if they just stuck to their guns, in my opinion.
just to update, I was wrong. The physical editions are not been cancelled. It was just the digital pre-orders.
Right.
Yeah, that's my mistake. But
I think that's because with a digital one, you pay the full whack straight up, don't you?
Yeah.
And with a pre-order, you don't pay until they ship it. So
I mean, like you said, people are stuck indoors. People are crying for stuff to do, stuff to play, and I'm not sure I entirely agree with the Final Fantasy release.
yeah, that was weird.
Because as far as I'm aware, Square Enix didn't actually sanction that.
No, they did.
Did they actually sanction it?
Yeah, see, because I follow them on social media, and they posted a lot in the lead up, and they basically said that they lifted the release date. So they didn't officially bring it forward. They just said almost like, okay, there isn't one now.
Mm-hmm.
So in order for people to get it before it comes out, they allowed retailers to send it as soon as they got it, pretty much.
I was going to say, I was like, that's why I was unsure about it, because I was like, if these shops just handed it out, like, that's a bit...
But they did put lots of disclaimers up saying, please, can you not spoil it if you get it early? And I tried to upload a screenshot the other day, and they've blocked screenshot capability. You can take them, but you can't share them.
I mean, that's fair enough. I don't get why. Yeah, my second issue with it, if Square Enix have sanctioned it, then my first issue is moot. That's fine, but they didn't bring forward the digital release, did they?
No, that's not till tomorrow.
And that was the big part that confused me.
So, before we completely depart it with the Last of Us thing, I think the thoughts that they're probably having are, like we've already said, they're worried about the pressures on physical distribution at the moment, because that's not actually it's not a given. Lots of workforces are being compromised by COVID, but they were also probably thinking about the fact that a lot of people around the world are their pay is being compromised. The UK government's been relatively generous with furlough, guaranteeing 80% of income for furloughed workers, but not all countries are doing that. And when people are facing economic uncertainty, they're not necessarily thinking, well, I'm going to spend £50 on this video game. They're probably thinking, I need to hunker down and hold on to my money, because I don't know if I can eat in 3 months' time if I don't. So they're probably thinking about that, but they're also probably thinking that they're very much used to AAA games have a whole host of ways where they promote their games, and the three of us are a minority. Well, we don't know if we're a minority, but we're only a slice of the gaming world. We read the news to an extent. We watch videos about the news. We were all always going to get Last of Us anyway, but the people that the Last of Us makers, Naughty Dog, is it? They know that a game as big as theirs that probably costs quite a lot to make, in order to recoup their losses, they need to win over people that haven't bought a Last of Us game before. They need to get their game out to new people, and that's not necessarily a given if they haven't got buses covered in, Ellie holding a gun and frowning, or all of that, all of the regular stuff. They're probably scared and thinking, we don't want to have a financial fuck up when we know we've got a great game on our hands that will do well in the conditions that it deserves to have. Maybe we're just going to hold on to this, because they don't want to compromise the security of their studio and have to lay off people. They're scared of that shit. I think that's probably the way they're approaching it. It's no fun, and it's entirely possible that if they did roll the dice and put the game out digitally and do a lot of press, like adverts on people's browsers and people's YouTube or whatever, they might even make a lot more money. My understanding is that Animal Crossing is doing fantastically under these conditions, but they don't know that for sure, and companies don't like instability and uncertainty, so I can see where they're coming from.
Yeah, I think I hadn't thought about it from that way, but just thinking about, how many people are, again, I don't want to pigeonhole, but imagine you've got, someone that's, I don't know, perhaps got a family, they don't keep up with the gaming news, and they only really see what's out by doing their weekly shop in a supermarket and having a look at what's out there and then, and being able to pick that up and look at the cover and, like you say, getting exposed to it by kind of physically picking up a game box and actually having a look. And I mean, yeah, that might be a small slice of the people that eventually buy it, but that's still, they would lose that if they brought it out now. So yeah, I hadn't considered that.
It's, yeah, you've definitely shined a different light on it. It's still tricky. I don't know. It's easy for me as someone who's... Yeah, it's easy for me as someone who's not financially involved in a company to say, yeah, just digital release it. Yeah, don't worry about it.
I think it's a case of when you sit there and you go, God, I can't believe they're not doing it this way. And then there's things that we haven't taken into account.
God damn it, Greg.
It makes sense to us.
I'm here to give you the other side of things, guys. Sometimes I know the other side. Sometimes I've heard of it. Sometimes I've read an article. Sometimes I'm just guessing. and sometimes I might even be right. So you're welcome.
You're our wise old aunt.
That's the dream.
Just while I've got it in front of me, so Square Enix said, unique circumstances have made it difficult to align timing for global shipping. Highest priority is that you all get the game, basically. So we made the decision to ship the game earlier than usual in Europe and Australia. Yeah, so they did sanction it.
Okay.
They didn't really give a reason, but they just was like, yeah, all right then.
Yeah, just y'all need something to play. Fair. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, is there anything you boys have been playing to kind of, keep your mind occupied while we're essentially forced to stay indoors?
I've had a cracking run of games, actually. I know obviously the times hasn't been good, but this is it's a very nice time for game releases this time of the year. So I had, what did I start with? Doom Eternal was the first one, and then Resident Evil 3, and now Final Fantasy 7.
Oh, see, I feel like next week I want to discuss remakes, because y'all know I'm an opinionated person, and I have a few opinions on remakes.
All right, let's pencil that in for next week. 100%.
See, Doom Eternal, while you was playing Doom Eternal, I was playing Doom 2016. Finally got around to it, and absolutely
Isn't it
loved
so
it.
good?
Absolutely loved it. Brilliant game.
I played a bit of Doom 2016, and I was really bored.
Really?
I found it really dull.
What?
I was just like, I don't know what it is about that game. I mean, I can tell that, like, clearly it's made well, and I can see why people would love it, but I was just so bored.
I thought as a Dark Souls fan, you would love troping around and killing hordes of creatures.
I would not go as far to claim that I am a Dark Souls fan. There's a reason why the main Dark Souls series on Brits and Suits is called Getting Greg into Dark Souls, because I'm not into Dark Souls, and it's Ozzy doing his very best. But yeah, I found to be fair, I probably didn't put more than an hour into it. I probably did about an hour. I played some stuff. I shot some things. I kicked a thing.
Doom's that sort of game after an hour you kind of know what you're in for. after an hour, it builds on it. Some of the later demons are really cool, and I'm kind of gutted you didn't get to see some of them. But if you wasn't enjoying it after an hour, you wouldn't have enjoyed it after 4, I'd say, because it's the same recipe, just snazzed up.
Yeah, that's the assumption I made. I felt it was a pretty safe assumption that basically the core gameplay loop of doing cool kills and getting better at doing your cool kills is, I'm not already enjoying it, then I probably won't enjoy it when it gets more elaborate and more fun.
Yeah. I mean, I played Doom, Call of Duty Warzone. I just want to kind of talk about that because that's the first battle royale game I've ever actually enjoyed. I'm guessing neither of you have played it, judging by the silence.
I haven't. I do like Call of Duty games. I like playing their multiplayer. I haven't done it in a while.
So it's essentially bog standard Call of Duty, like bog standard battle royale rules. 150 people a map. You drop down, you find guns, you find boxes, you shoot people, you win, you lose, blah blah blah.
Okay.
However, so it has a feature, same as Apex, where you can bring back a team member who has died. There's essentially shopping kiosks, and you can buy armor, or you can buy a self-revive kit for if you go down, or if one of your teammates has died, you can pay a hefty chunk. I think it's like 4,500 to bring them back, and they redeploy.
You know that the currency means nothing to us because we haven't played it.
Yeah,
it's just dollars. You find dollars laying on the floor. That's all it is.
Singles, or because that's going to take a while.
Oh no, you find chunks. They range from like 200 to 1,000. So.
Okay, there we go.
But the cool thing that I like about it is it's while you're playing on that map, it's kind of like Battlefield. It's like a big map with vehicles. But the gulag, they had this. I love that word because it makes it sound like a fucking gooch every time I think of gulag. I just think it's like some fucking euphemism for a genital. But that's
what I'm going to call mine forever.
Basically, when you die,
Dan gets his gulag out for the girls and boys.
You go to this area called the gulag, and it's essentially a prison. And so you're up on the balcony, and below is a very, very small area where they hold 1v1s. And so there'll be bits for you to hide behind, and basically you wait your turn, and then you fight a 1v1, and if you win the 1v1, you redeploy for free. If you lose the 1v1, then your team have to buy you back.
That's actually quite cool. I played Fortnite a bit when it was quite new, and I just found myself being sniped from afar from people that I never saw coming, who knew the game better than me. And then I just had to wait for a long time, and I was like, wow, this is not for me.
That was that was my experience. I mean, I started with Fortnite. I didn't get on with Fortnite because I couldn't build as quick or as fast as other people, so I essentially always lost, because unfortunately that's how that game is. If you can't build, then you lose. I tried Apex. Apex was quite fun, but because of the special abilities the characters had, you had to essentially master a character, know exactly what their ability did, know exactly when to use it, when not to use it. Certain abilities were good against other characters and certain ones weren't good against other characters. There was a lot of sort of meta understanding, in a sense. You had to know your matchups and know whether you could take on a character ability versus ability, or if you had to kind of flank them and win in a gunfight.
Yeah,
couldn't really get on with that.
I found Overwatch a bit like that.
Overwatch is very much like that.
Yeah, and I couldn't get on with it. I think my problem with battle royale games in general now is that none of them are noob friendly. I mean, I haven't played a COD game for many, many years. I used to love playing online. I used to be the guy that would go out at midnight to buy it because I loved them so much. But then it slowly became, the problem was that people were putting so many hours in and prestiging over and over and over again that, you know, there were games where you weren't alive for more than 5 seconds because you were constantly just getting shot in the face, and it becomes so much. It kind of becomes you can only get kind of punched in the face so often before you just think, I'm going to avoid the fight and just completely, and that's how it became with COD for me. It just people became so good at it that I wasn't in the same league.
I mean, from the perspective of Warzone, it's one of those games that it's noob friendly if you play FPSs. You know, if you've never played an FPS, or if you're really unfamiliar with it, you're going to have a hard time. But if you can handle an FPS, they have a lot of good mechanics. You know, you get these things called field upgrades, which are essentially, how do you describe them? Kind of like ultimates. Like, you find them in crates. So you'll have, like, there's one for dead silence where you don't make any sound for like a minute, and there's one that's a deployable cover you can hide behind. But it's all kind of random. You know, you open a crate and you might get it, you might not. And yeah, I mean, it's the most enjoyable battle royale game that I've played, and I find myself actually wanting to play it. Trying to think what else I've been playing. I've been playing Rocket League. Never really stopped playing Rocket League. It's always good fun for me. Soul Calibur. I got into Soul Calibur online since I've been locked indoors. Me and Reese are in a bit of a competition because we're just trying to rank up higher than the other one. He's beating me at the minute, but he's been investing more time, so...
Obviously.
But the big one I want to talk about is Animal Crossing. That game could not have come at a better time. Holy shit.
Every time because I'm working from home, like, I'm still doing my same hours, and Chloe, my fiance, she plays on my Switch, she plays Animal Crossing, and I'm just working upstairs, like, some of the hardest, like, I'm having a terrible time, and she's just downstairs, and I just hear all these little...
you hear the intro music, and you hear the... and you're like, for God's sake. So
yeah, I could. It sounds really. I've played bits of it with her. I struggle to enjoy it, but it's so relaxing to watch.
Yeah. I mean,
and to be near.
I wasn't gonna play it. Like, I wasn't gonna get it. So for ages, Ellie has been pinching my Switch here and there. It started off with Mario Kart. You know, we had a DS. Both of us had DSs, and we'd play Mario Kart together, same as the Wii. And so she would pinch my Switch and play Mario Kart. But her big obsession was actually the Mario and Rabbids Battle Kingdom game that was like XCOM. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
I own it. I actually, yeah.
It's actually a surprisingly good turn-based game. But that was her big obsession. And I showed her Animal Crossing because she's into like anything that's cutesy style and that. And I was like, look at this, look how cute these people are. And she was like, yeah, I'm going to need that. And she had a bit of spare money that she was sort of saving up. She's just because she's one of those people who saves. She's a mature adult like that. And she was like, do you know what, screw it. And she bought a Switch Lite. She bought a turquoise Switch Lite with Animal Crossing. And then I saw her playing it, but this was pre-lockdown. And I saw her playing it, and I was like, God damn, I don't need it. God damn, I don't need it. And then I was looking on CD Keys, and CD Keys had a code for 40 quid, and I was like, do you know what? This was after the lockdown. They announced the lockdown, and like the day after, because me and Ellie don't live together, so I'm essentially not going to see her for like 3 weeks, except for a couple of hours on Wednesday. And so I was like, no, do you know what? I'm going to need something just to like detach from everything. And so I bought Animal Crossing, and that game is like, it's like an obsession. I wake up in the morning and the first thing I do is put my Switch on, and I go and dig up my fossils and water my flowers and talk to Blathers and get him to assess the fossils that I've dug up. And I just
What do you find you're liking about the experience? What part of it?
Do you know what it is? It's the sense of progression, right? Because basically it starts off, you're on an island, you're on the island, and Tom Nook, who is essentially the epitome of capitalism, he says to you, okay, you're on the island, I've given you a tent, blah blah blah, and you have these things called Nook miles, which you earn from doing day-to-day stuff like digging up and watering flowers and blah blah blah. And then you have bells, which is the currency of the island. And he's like, you owe me 95,000 bells for the accommodation, the flight, all of that stuff. So he goes, okay, I'll transfer it, I'll make it 5,000 Nook miles. So you start catching fish, you earn your Nook miles, you pay him off. And he goes, oh cool, okay, there you go. Right, your tent's nice, would you like a house? And you go, god damn, yeah, a house sounds good. And he's like, okay, right, I'll make you a house. And he's like, right, the house is 100,000 bells. So then you pay him off.
You're indebted to him again.
Yeah, you pay him off, and then it's like, okay, now we're going to build a bridge. And then you have other people come to your island, so you've got more villagers. And then you're like, oh, my house is okay, but I want a bigger house. And he goes, yeah, that's fine, I got you 200,000 bells. And it's like, my island has progressed. I've gone from just being this island of weed and cherry trees to there's weeds and cherry trees. Should emphasise that. I don't grow cannabis on my island.
Nintendo's a political statement there.
And now I've got cherries, peaches, coconuts, pears. I've made this like Japanese style mansion where I've got like Zen fence all around, like the stone fence with the iron tiles on the top of it, and I've got a garden with a outdoor bath and a Japanese deer scare and bamboo, and it's that same appeal of Minecraft, of that you can essentially do what the hell you want and make your island look exactly how you want it to look.
See, that's my problem and why it doesn't appeal to me, because I can't get on board with games that don't have a point.
Yeah, you're not you're one of these people who need structure in their games.
Yeah, I need to be kind of working towards things. I need there to be... I feel... I mean, I know people will argue the opposite, but when it comes to things like Minecraft and The Sims and Animal Crossing, I don't feel like there's that sense of accomplishment, because I think it's because you can't complete it. Mm-hmm. I like to be able to complete a game, to finish it, to feel like I've conquered it, and I think you don't really get that. That's not the point of Animal Crossing, which is fine, but it just, I can't, it just doesn't appeal to me.
Yeah, I mean,
appeal.
The Animal Crossing community is one of the nicest communities I've been in ever. Genuinely, like, Ellie...
Is it because they're all 9?
No. They're all like 11 at least, man. You at one point you build a shop for your island, like a convenience store kind of place where you buy goods, and you need 30 iron to be able to build it. And they have a system where you can visit other people's islands, and you can do that either locally, like by being in the same room as someone. You can do it online as a friend, or you can do it online via something called a dodo code. A dodo code is basically like a one-time code that once you close off access to your island, that dodo code is now expired and redundant. So when someone's your friend, they can come to your island and they can harvest your trees and they can chop them down and they can do whatever. But if somebody comes via a dodo code, they can't use any of their tools on your island, so they can't chop anything down. They can't alter your island. They're there just to fish, buy supplies, leave you supplies. You know, it's a lot of a safer thing. So people use their dodo code, and you know, Ellie was like, I need 30 iron for my island. If anybody has a little bit they can contribute, I'm happy to, you know, give you something in return. And somebody came over and bought something from her shop. The shops have like these, every day they have different exclusives, and once you buy one of them, they're gone forever. And if you don't buy it, the next day it's gone forever. And I think somebody bought one of her exclusives. They came over with a dodo code, and she was like, what do you want? And they was like, oh no, don't worry, I bought this from the shop, I really needed it, here's 30 iron. So she had her 30 iron for her shop.
Okay.
You know, so it's
well,
like,
Ben, that game sounds fucking boring.
dude, it's one of those games that it has to appeal to you. You know,
Yeah.
all I could say is play Chloe's, set up a different profile, play it from the start, and if it doesn't appeal to you, it doesn't appeal to you. But I never thought I would play Animal Crossing. I never thought I would. But
I might. Who knows what this lockdown will drive me to? There's still time for Animal Crossing.
Like I said, it's a nice chill environment, and you just kind of like, do you know what? Like, I built a park the other day. You know, like I relocated my house, and I had this area where I planted a bunch of flowers, and I was like, do you know what? Sod it, I'll make it into a park. I spent 2 hours making it into a park.
See, this is where we differ, because I was like, oh, I fancy playing something that's going to chill me out the other day, so I played Doom. You know, killing demons chills me out. You know, saving the world chills me out. You know, harvesting coconuts for a oppressive leader called Tom just doesn't do it for me.
Yeah, no, Tom, like I said, Tom Crook is the epitome of capitalism. He will always find a way to be indebted to him somehow.
I don't need to, I go to gaming for an escape. I don't need to overshadow my real life trauma and debt by playing it with small chibi versions of me.
Oh man. But no, that game was just a happy accident for Nintendo, really.
Yeah,
like,
it's
do
definitely
you know,
aligned well when people are feeling enclosed in their homes and like distant from their communities. All of a sudden, this game about like having a nice, peaceful life and in building a thriving community just happens to come along. Isn't that a coincidence? Nintendo.
I mean, do you know how hard it is to get a Switch in the UK now?
Probably.
Really?
It is. They have sold out everywhere.
Ah.
My mate was trying to get one, and I think because he wanted one for him and he wanted one for his girlfriend, and his girlfriend was like, I want the yellow one, and he was like, well, the yellow one's the only one that's in stock. All the others are not going to be in stock for another 3 weeks.
Well,
I know that it's the same in I follow a YouTube channel of a family that live in Japan, and they're sold out everywhere in Japan. They've really
it was pretty much
and they've cleaned up with this one.
It was pretty much as soon as the lockdown announced, the Switches were just bought out. It's strange.
Well, I mean, I can talk about what I've been up to in these times. I mean, I'm quite an extroverted person, I think.
I'd think that's safe to say from the one time that I've met you in real life. Like,
we made friends. It was great. And I think one of the things that I'm struggling most with is that I can't just go to a shop and start chatting to like people on the tills or whatever.
I bet they love you.
all the shops in your area there's like a cheer and a sigh of relief.
Well, it's sort of my natural way of conducting myself is I'm quite exuberant and quite chatty. I really liked when I worked in Marks and Spencer's and kept asking to be put on the tills because I was so chatty, and I found that really fun. Like, that wasn't even work for me. I just like pissing around and chatting to old people. It's great. But now I'm feeling very like contained and stuff, and like the games I've sort of tended towards are games which involve me role playing in a world. So I've really fallen deep into Fallout 4. Where you talk to people and people are like, "Oh, I'm so sad that my child is dead," and I'm like, I wonder if it's immoral for me to try and take your money while you're chatting to me about this. It's that's sort of where I go. Like when I was bedridden for a couple of years with my chronic condition in my teenage years, I basically my entire life was Fallout New Vegas, Fallout 3, Elder Scrolls Oblivion, Elder Scrolls Skyrim, and a bit of Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. That was just my life for about 2 years, and that wasn't too bad because I'm so okay with just falling into these worlds. So I've definitely gone back to the old standby of just a role-playing world, interacting with people, solving quests, pretending I can run around in a real world. And shoot the baddies or the goodies. Depends on the mood.
I just went on a spree of, because normally most of my time revolves around work, seeing Ellie, and seeing my friends. So now I can't see Ellie or see my friends. I'm just using it to catch up on all the games that I haven't played. I played the Complex for the website, did a review on that, like an interactive FMV. That was quite good. That was actually really good. I liked that. But I'm currently playing Persona 5 Royal. That's like my main game at the minute. God, I love that game. It's so good. Like crazy fucking good. Essentially you have like missions where you have to change the heart of evil people, and so you do what you have to do, and the whole point is there's a deadline, so you have to do it before the deadline. So I did the first one. I had 11 days before the deadline, and I basically just had to wait for this guy to have a change of heart, and I was like, oh my god, this 11 days are going to be boring. No, it wasn't boring. I went and built up the relationships between me and the companions, so it made me and them stronger. I did things to increase the stats
How is
of my
Ellie
character.
coping with spending so much time around you?
How is what? What was that?
Hello?
What happened there?
You've
lost Ben.
You've lost me.
He's gone. What are you? I don't know. You know what, Dan? I have no idea about your living situation. How's the people you live with doing?
Oh, I live in a tent in your yard.
Can you hear me now?
Hello, Ben.
Oh,
Ben is back.
I don't know what happened there.
Yeah, there's just silence. Well, no, now I'm asking Dan the same question. So, Dan, you live in a tent in my yard, so you.
I do. I'm enjoying it. I'm watching Chloe play a lot of Animal Crossing.
Sure.
And you haven't taken Fallout out of your Xbox for around 9 years now, which is interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
There, you are very very dedicated to that game.
I do like it. My amount of hours played on Fallout 4 is probably worse than my amount of hours played on maybe even New Vegas at this point.
I think you've overtaken the hours played as you've actually been playing it longer than you've been alive in terms of hours.
Yeah, it's not even my favourite Fallout game, which is the bizarre thing. I actually think I like 3 and New Vegas more than it. It's just I've played all of them enough times now that I just don't think I can get anything new out of them. Whereas Fallout 4 I can play on survival mode, and so it's just I've always endlessly got things to do, which I like. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Chloe, I think, is coping okay with having a lot of me. Because it's just 100% me and her are in the house all the time with each other. I think she's doing all right. I think she's coping. She knows what I'm like. Sometimes she tells me that she's reading her book now and just tells me to go. Well, hints that I should go away, and I do that. I find other things to do in the house. I'm like a dog. I'm quite easily entertained in any room.
Just put the radio on for you and you'll be fine.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't live with Ellie, so...
Oh, of course you don't. I always assume that you do.
No, we never got around to it, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's pretty difficult to get around to it now.
Talking in a very final way, I mean, it will happen.
Oh yeah, no, it will
just
happen.
not-
It's mainly, to be honest, it's my fault that we don't live together. Mainly, it's not my fault as such. It was because I was at uni. So I didn't really have kind of much spare money from that. And then after uni, I was like, oh my god, I'm free. And my money managing skills are not the best, truth be told. They're a lot better now. I'm a lot better at managing my money now. But back then I was very much like, as long as I have a roof over my head and food, I don't really care where my money goes. You know, like, I don't need money for a rainy day, fuck it.
I'm saving a lot of money on my commute.
Oh god, I can imagine.
I mean, I live in Reading and my work is in London, so I spend over £100 a week on my commute. So I'm feeling good about. It's obviously it's a horrible time, but that's a silver lining in my personal life.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, like I said, like, we're saving now. So yeah, Ellie doesn't want to rent, which is fair. I don't blame her really. So yeah, just saving, and then when's the times come, the mortgage.
That's fair. I've just been keeping to myself, gaming, watching, catching up on TV and stuff. I do have uni work to do, but I've put that off. I felt like I needed some time to adjust to this kind of new way of life before jumping into that, because it was an adjustment and it's not been an easy one.
A lot of people need that. I mean, I've taken leave at a time where I've got more time than I normally have anyway at home, but like, it's just such an adjustment, and I definitely needed this week to just chill and just sort of settle into it. So I definitely get that, Dan. You do.
Yeah, that's what I've done. I've only got one more assignment to do, because obviously all I had left for this year was an assignment and a placement to do in a school, but I am no longer doing a placement because schools aren't open.
Sure.
So yeah, I was like, I'm going to have a couple of weeks of just chilling out and getting used to things, and then I'll jump into the assignment. But I mean, I haven't been to uni for... well, I've been on lockdown, so this Saturday will be a month since I left the house, and I didn't have uni a few days before that, and I'm likely not going to do anything again until September. So this is going to be a long time for me, a very, very long time of being at home. So I feel like the adjustment period was needed.
See,
and lucky enough, friends.
Nice.
Yeah, because my housemate is immune compromised, so all the time he can't leave the house, I can't leave the house.
Yeah, sure.
So
yeah,
it was either move in with family, which is my nan, who is nearly 90, or just stay where I am, where all my stuff is, but I can't leave the house. Yeah, so yeah, I've never been so happy of games coming out as I have been now, because it's been... I mean, I've got a bit of a back catalogue that I can plough through, but it's nice to have some escape. And being that Final Fantasy and Resident Evil are my favourite franchises ever, up with Zelda, having 2 new games from them come out was kind of a nice distraction.
Yeah, see, I'm kind of lucky in the sense that, like, I'm still working.
Yeah.
I suppose it depends how you define lucky, but I know what you mean.
Yeah, see, you can't really win. Do you know what I mean? Because I don't work with the public, but the people who come into the yard where I work do work with the public. and there people could be carrying and whatever. But if I wasn't working, I would literally be stuck in this single room. Like I have an ensuite room in the loft of a house, so there isn't really much need for me to leave other than to make a drink or to get some food. And I only get on with one of my housemates, but even then I can't stand in the kitchen and really have a chat with him because our kitchen is not really 2 meters long.
Sure.
Okay.
So, it's if I was not working, I get some socialising from the people that I work with at the yard. So I'm quite lucky in that respect, because otherwise I would just be stuck in these four walls, and not to be too deep, but having depression and being stuck in four walls with nobody to physically talk to as a real person is kind of it's not an amazing experience.
No.
Yeah, you being left alone with your thoughts when your thoughts aren't productive is not a good place to be.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I'm kind of grateful and not grateful.
Welcome of the distraction.
Yes, that is the key to this entire podcast, I feel.
Yeah, this podcast is literally exists to sustain the mental health of all three of its participants.
Greg, I wonder, do you think you're going to be made to work from home more often now? Because I know we was talking about changes to the gaming world, but do you reckon that your office is going to look and say, well, rather than commuting from Reading, why don't you just work from home?
Yeah, I mean, I always work from home a day a week anyway, and I only work 4 days a week now.
Okay.
So it's not crazy bad or anything like that. But my office is quite understanding, and I really love the people that I work with in my immediate team, and they're extremely good. So if I need, and I have before worked from home for whole weeks before, and they've been like, it's fine, just keep us in the loop. And I've done that. It's possible that it will become a lot more normal in my office for people to work from home. I mean, it's already quite normal. Most people in my office work from home at least sometimes. So I wonder if it'll just less people will come into the office, and I mean that could potentially be quite positive on a societal scale if less people are commuting, less people are filling up transport hubs and taking up carbon emissions and all sorts of things. I mean, it could be a societal good, and a lot of people could get better at living life, and a lot of companies and offices and all sorts could be a lot better at supporting work-life balance. I mean, this is a massive thing that society is undergoing, and a lot of people are suffering, and a lot of people are re-examining the way that they look at life, and a lot of assumptions about how work works are being completely challenged. I mean, Dan's probably got one of the best examples. He works in teaching, and children are now being taught through the internet and through these courses, and sometimes teachers are talking to them, sometimes they're not, and that's completely different. That's never happened before. It's bizarre, the world we're in at the moment.
I think you're right. I think teaching is there is going to be definitely going to be some permanent changes. I mean, it's slightly different for me because it's primary, so expecting 4, 5, 6-year-olds to sit and just look at a video with no kind of other interaction is, I don't think primary will change massively, but I definitely think secondary and universities will definitely change, because one of the biggest kind of utter nightmares of my university since I've been there is booking rooms. There's never enough rooms, to actually sustain the seminars and stuff they want to do, and this is just proving that it can be done remotely. A lot of it can be done online, so why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
So yeah.
The tools are here, and everyone's had to use them. So now there's no excuse.
Yeah, I think that's it. I mean, there've been times in the past where I've had to pay because I commute in, and I've had to pay to go in for a lecture that was from 9 till 10, and then that's it.
Oh, Jesus.
But my attendance has to be, I have to physically go and tap in for my attendance to count.
Oh,
There is no reason that I mean seminars are slightly different because it's much more about group discussion and about talking and sharing, but lectures, there's very little interaction. You just sit there and listen to a guy. It's like a TED talk.
Yeah.
So there's no reason that couldn't be pre-recorded and you could learn from home. You get the same experience. So
Totally
Shall be
agree.
Interesting. Anything?
I think we should leave it there, chaps.
Yeah, I was going to
Unless
say,
anyone
anything
else
you want to
has
say before we sign off?
I'm off to have my government mandated exercise in a bit, and well, it's not mandated, but it's encouraged, and I do encourage everyone to keep going outside, especially. Well, I suppose Dan, you can't at all.
well, I have a garden, so
Okay.
Yeah.
Sunlight
I
is
do make sure.
surprisingly useful.
Yeah, I do make sure I go out and sit out there for a little while every day just to make sure that just to check it's still there, really.
The outside is still real. Yes, it's still there. Yeah, I guess that's kind of what I want to sign off with. Make sure that you get out as much as you can, even if you sit in the garden for a little while with your Switch playing Animal Crossing, which I highly, highly recommend.
Yeah. Look after yourself, guys.
Yeah, well, stay safe. And if you're still listening, thank you for
Indeed.
still listening. Yeah.
Aw,
Yes.
Yeah.
that was
Bye,
nice.
guys.
That's a nice ending. Yeah, bye. Toodaloo.
Bye.